You know, it's always exciting to talk about new discoveries.
Now here, for the first time in history,
Scotchgard brand stain repeller.
Scotch brand oven liner.
Scientists have now come up with a powerful new firefighting device.
It may be the most insidious pollutant that man's created.
There are chemicals in our environment, whether we like it or not.
The more I learned, the more concerned I became.
These chemicals don't break down.
So you can't see it, you can't feel it, it's invisible, but it's there nonetheless, isn't it?
That's right.
It'll be in use everywhere to save lives.
Another fine product of 3M Company.
We know three things to be true.
As the 3M people do, they give you all the help and information they possibly can.
3M made these chemicals.
Used all over the globe.
3M disposed of these chemicals.
The waste products had been buried in landfills.
There's a very strong message that these compounds were not toxic.
I've said it now twice, it was not a concern.
I said, my God, they knew about it 50, 60 years ago.
Isn't it amazing?
The misrepresentation.
I don't agree with the word contamination.
Was very calculated.
They tell you what.
Depends on what you think is a lot.
And now these chemicals are in every single human being's blood alive on the planet today.
Scotchgard.
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 Another product of 3M research.
My name is Fardeen Olyai, and my position, the last position was I was the coordinator of the emerging contaminant pollutant.
How long did you work for the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency?
17 years.
And why did you leave the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency?
I didn't leave by myself. I was forced to resign. And the reason for that forceful resignation was because I started working on PFAS. You guys, it's like as revisiting a ghost from my past life.
Once we got introduced to Fardeen's work, we realized that this was something that was far bigger than just a single pipeline or a single smokestack putting out pollution into the air.
Fardeen was instrumental in helping us understand the science.
She was taking fish samples
and had identified these chemicals in fish in Voyageur National Park. And that, to her, was a clue that these chemicals were widespread.
Fardeen in Minnesota was way ahead of the game, and as it turned out, she was way ahead of the game nationally and internationally.
And I'm just one of the scientists. I know that a lot of scientists from different parts of the world have been focusing on this chemical. One of the scientists at the U of M, Matt Simsek,
Started to have conversations with folks at the state health department and pollution control agency and said, hey, look, you might want to look for this stuff. And they basically said, where? And I said, everywhere. And so, and turns out they found it everywhere.
That it was like as PFAS was running more than blood in these fish.
There seemed to be more PFAS in the veins of the fish in the boundary water than actual blood.
And that's a stat that just is mind-boggling to me.
Not normal. I always tell people that fluorinated chemicals are weird. They're weird in industry, they're weird in my laboratory, they're weird in the environment, and they're weird in biology. They just do things differently.
When you look at these persistent chemicals, they usually accumulate in the fatty tissues, but with these PFAS, they are mostly in the blood.
She knew before anybody else, really. In 2004,
the more I learned, the more concerned I became.
I gave her a call at the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency and introduced myself and said I was a reporter at Minnesota Public Radio. I was interested in the Scotchgard chemicals.
My manager thought that I would be afraid to speak out.
And she paused And I remember the story just came like tumbling out of her. Like she had been waiting for the call.
Fardeen was at some point told she shouldn't talk to the media, to reporters about this, but she talked to us when she realized accurately that the management at the PCA in 2004, 2005 were not curious, were not interested, and did not want her to do anything further on this.
She had been wanting to do a deeper investigation, more detailed investigation, and told me that her research was being blocked.
She was trying to do her job, but she was being told, don't do your job or you're going to be fired.
And she asked for $144,000 to expand the research into the spread of the chemicals, just to find out basically where they are.
When that was turned down, she scaled it way back and said, fine, I'll do it for $14,000, which is like, got to be a rounding error.
It is insignificant.
Like very, very inexpensive.
And they still said that you can't do that.
It wasn't that we didn't have the money to pay for it, it was that the commissioner's office didn't want to do it. They wanted to silence it.
And that she got no explanation for why it was going nowhere.
And the less money spent on this, the better.
She kept having her research turned down and finally told us that she was actually being threatened, that her emerging contaminants work would be shut down. And so that was also an indication that this wasn't about money.
The bottom line answer we got from Commissioner Cheryl Corrigan was, the MPCA is not a research institution.
The fact that I've said numerous times, whether it was in this context or not, that the MPCA is a regulatory agency.
She said, we are not a research agency. That is not the point of what this agency is about. We don't do scientific research.
Research around any kind of chemical, whether it's fluorochemicals or not, really belongs at the EPA.
She made the case that it was the Environmental Protection Agency, so the federal agency, that should be doing this kind of research.
They have the resources and the funding. State agencies don't.
And that was just mind-boggling.
It doesn't make any sense at all. I mean, that's what a pollution control agency is supposed to be doing, is researching and understanding chemicals.
Without our scientific work, MPCA was nothing.
Fardeen was there to find out what things they ought to be regulating.
It just seems so obvious that she wanted the agency to have no part in this.
I was devastated to see that my manager, my commissioner, listening to 3M and letting 3M run the show.
And what other positions did you hold at 3M?
Here's what I will tell you. I have spent my entire professional career protecting the environment and working for companies that I am proud of, and also working for the state of Minnesota. And I'm very proud of that record. I do believe deeply that 3M would do the right thing if there was a risk to human health or to the environment. And I believed that then, and I believe it now.
At the time we were reporting this story, Cheryl Corrigan was the commissioner of the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency.
She shouldn't be a commissioner.
She was appointed by Governor Pawlenty.
And what was interesting was that she had previously worked for 3M as an environmental manager.
Did you have to fill out forms in connection with your nomination?
Financial disclosure forms, yeah.
Still a shareholder at 3M.
Her boss at 3M had recommended her to the governor for the job.
Because I think that at that time they knew that PFC is going to become an issue, and they wanted someone from themselves to be controlling the system.
We looked at this and thought, wow, isn't this a cozy relationship?
In Minnesota, the Pollution Control Agency is the regulatory agency that's supposed to be monitoring pollution, regulating pollution, yet you have this person at who came from 3M and was now put in charge of regulating 3M's chemicals.
To have a 3M executive as the head is like, that's super contradictory in the context of PFAS.
I never consider her to be a real sincere commissioner of PCA.
And that was really right at the time when these chemicals were they were starting to come out that there may be issues with them. It was starting to come out that there may be issues with how the chemicals were disposed of and dumped by 3M.
And I was responsible for managing site cleanup projects.
She worked specifically with PFAS at 3M.
They existed in the environment because for decades, the waste products had been buried in landfills.
They knew in the 60s that they were getting into the water, that they were contaminating the water, yet they kept doing it anyway.
In the early 60s, that was a common way of disposal.
They just kept putting them into the ground, knowing full well that they were going to seep into the drinking water.
It's in our groundwater, it's in our aquifer.
These chemicals don't break down.
The company dumped PFAS-contaminated waste primarily at 4 locations in the Twin Cities East Metro.
It affected multiple wells in our community.
And you recall that 3M had disposed of waste at the Oakdale site, right?
That's correct. I was doing a lot of research trying to figure out what are we talking about, what are we dealing with, what is the knowledge that is out there.
The chemicals would eventually seep deep into the ground, contaminating the drinking water of more than 170,000 people. A reality the Fox 9 investigators have documented for years.
Here in the East Metro, we have a lot of contaminated groundwater.
The city of Woodbury is not new to PFAS.
The landfills that were decades old were showing evidence of leaching into the groundwater.
That's how we distribute water in the city of Woodbury today. We pump that water from underground.
Did you ever raise fluorochemical or PFC contamination with Woodbury officials?
No.
Is that something that should have been reported?
Of course.
For the city of Woodbury, it's impacted us significantly because of where our source water is, how the PFAS chemicals got into the source water.
Did you provide any of the watershed districts with PFC data?
No. We didn't.
I mean, that I can't believe that she would even say that things and still become a commissioner.
She probably had a level of knowledge of what was happening about these chemicals that she would then carry over into her job as commissioner.
I was recused from all decision-making relative to 3M, so I don't know.
So we had some questions about when that recusal was made and how widely known that was within the agency.
It was a loud alarm to us.
This is the start of tape label number 1 of the videotape deposition of Cheryl Corrigan in the matter of State of Minnesota et al. Versus 3M Company.
Did 3M request a meeting with you when you were PCA commissioner?
Yes.
Who set up the meeting?
Mike Santoro.
I was an environmental engineer at 3M.
And what did you say to Mike Santoro when he made that request?
I said, Mike, I'm happy to talk to you, but I have recused myself from all 3M matters.
You didn't know she had granted this meeting
No.
that they're referencing?
No.
Did you discuss potential routes of exposure for PFOA and PFOS at the meeting?
I don't recall.
If you are recusing yourself, then why are you sitting there in the meeting?
I mean, what's she doing in the room? Just sitting there watching?
Do you recognize this document?
I think I do.
What is it?
I think it was a note written by Mike Santoro reflecting the contents of the meeting.
I'd like to read that deposition.
Do you recall what types of regulatory or other government actions were discussed?
No.
Cheryl indicated that they did not consider the FCs as hazardous.
What did you mean by they?
She meant the MPCA.
This was Mike's interpretation of the discussion.
But it's not recusal. It's clearly not recusal.
It was purely a courtesy meeting.
She called it a courtesy meeting.
I have no idea if that was a courtesy meeting. They had so many courtesy meetings. I can assure you of that.
Our goal was to inform, make them aware of what we knew.
Oof, he was always honestly like a shadow there.
You saw him at the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency headquarters in St. Paul more than once?
Yes, 3 or 4 times. Attending the meetings that it was with me and managers about PFAS.
Specifically about your research?
Specifically about my research.
Fardeen recounted having a face-to-face meeting with Cheryl Corrigan.
Did it seem like she was recused?
Not at all.
So that suggested to us that this recusal was not widely known or put into practice.
I call it regulatory capture. We have a problem in Minnesota, and we had a problem with these chemicals of regulatory capture, where the regulators who are supposed to be regulating and policing 3M and monitoring its actions were captured by 3M and weren't doing their job.
So from now on, when you buy furniture or men's suits, slacks, or suede leather garments, and soon in women's fashions, look for the symbol of Scotchgard Repeller Protection. Scotchgard Brand Stain Repeller, another product of 3M Research.
We just had a little ball here with the Scotchgard Fabric Protector. Mary Lou, maybe that's why I guess we can say that Scotchgard is for the spotless life. Is that all right?
That's fine. I grew up in Minnesota, and 3M was one of those widely admired companies.
An important corporate citizen of Minnesota.
So a lot of people may not know, it's called 3M, but the name is Minnesota Mining and Manufacturing. That was the original name of the company. They put the state name right into the company name.
Another fine product of 3M Company.
It is a very, very powerful and influential company that for decades has dominated the state.
As the 3M people do, they give you all the help and information they possibly can.
They employ a lot of people in Minnesota.
Can be blotted away in seconds.
They are great innovators.
Isn't it amazing?
It's known for its innovation.
It truly is amazing.
Post-it notes, Scotchgard.
Scotch Magic Transparent Tape can do a lot for you.
Everybody used all these 3M products.
Scotch Hair Set Tape.
And loved them.
From 3M.
They also were a major fluorochemical manufacturer in the United States for decades.
The chemicals that went into Scotchgard.
This dress was made of fabric pre-treated with Scotchgard Stain Repeller.
So Scotchgard is a surface treatment where you put a molecule onto a food wrapper, a clothing, a carpet, upholstery.
Scotchgard was the blockbuster product that 3M made for decades.
Now here, for the first time in history, is a stain repeller that repels oil stains like salad dressings.
Repels both water and oil.
In this bottle are 3 liquids: water, oil, and Scotchgard repeller. Now I'm going to shake this bottle like this.
Very few compounds will repel both water and oil.
And you will notice as it settles that the Scotchgard repeller simply will not mix with the water or the oil.
This is the only kind of compound where it will repel both.
It would go into rain jackets.
Women's fashions will have Scotchgard repeller protection too.
Used all over the globe.
PFAS is a compound that is unique to 3M, or was unique to 3M.
These chemicals were a byproduct of the Manhattan Project. So when they were making the nuclear bomb, they had to find a way to separate uranium from other chemicals, and they discovered PFAS.
It may be the most insidious pollutant that man's created.
PFAS itself, stands up to stains, to water, to high temperatures, 1700 degree temperatures.
What often happens is what makes a chemical really good as an industrial chemical makes it really bad for the environment.
This was a story about a local company that had produced chemicals that were a household name, and that these chemicals were spreading through the environment.
Here begins tape number 1 in the videotaped deposition of Dr. Richard Purdy.
Our first major interview was with Rich Purdy, who described to us how 3M became alarmed.
And this is the resignation letter that you sent to 3M on March 28, 1999?
Yes.
I'd say Rich Purdy was our chief source, trying to trace what was happening inside the company.
And you felt, as an ethical matter, this is what you had to do, right?
Yes. Because I was a watchdog.
In 2000, 3M announced that it would be scaling back its production of Scotchgard and other stain-resistant products.
3M had voluntarily ceased production.
They actually acted pretty quickly.
As the 3M people do, they give you all the help and information they possibly can.
Very subdued within the company and very tragic, you know, that we're losing this great business.
They said that their annual profit was about $500 million a year.
It's kind of like being at a funeral.
$500 million a year.
When 3M held a news conference and said, we're going to redo the chemistry to make it safer.
As the 3M people do, they give you all the help and information they possibly can.
Basically, all they did was shift their manufacture from a long chain compound to a short chain compound.
Yeah, they're different chemicals, but they're still PFAS.
That doesn't mean it's not harmful.
And they still don't biodegrade in the environment.
Whether or not that was a great decision, we're now trying to figure out, right?
When 3M quit making the products in the year 2000, they said, oh, we're quitting, and they said, we just discovered this is in human blood. That was another lie.
They've known for a long time.
They were finding it in their workers' blood.
Obviously, they knew they had an issue with their workers for decades.
Back in the 1970s, the company discovered it was in the blood of some production workers at its plant in Alabama.
They knew for 25 years it was in blood.
3M had pretty early knowledge.
They decided to not tell anybody.
Where 2 scientists came to 3M in '75 and said, hey, we have tested blood from various places in the United States, and we're finding fluorochemicals in people's blood, and we think it might be Scotchgard, your product, 3M, that's causing it.
As the 3M people do, they give you all the help and information they possibly can.
No steps were taken to alert any regulators, right?
I don't know.
Over the years, as technology made it easier to detect smaller traces of the chemical, the company made a stunning discovery. It wasn't just in 3M workers.
What we learned was that from looking at those blood samples was that it's very widespread.
And so in some ways it was like finding the big red 3M logo in the blood of the general population.
It's not just workers who are being exposed to these chemicals, it's all of us.
Their argument was, look, if the ill health effects are not showing up in workers, then certainly the general public, which would have far less exposure, has nothing to worry about.
You say 3M waited too long to tell customers about the widespread dispersal of PFAS in people and the environment, right?
That's what I said, yes.
And you felt guilty about that, didn't you?
Yes.
He didn't just quit, he quit and he sent his letter to the Environmental Protection Agency.
3M was ultimately fined $1.5 million by the Environmental Protection Agency after the company failed to notify them of their studies involving the toxicity of their chemicals.
They give you all the help and information they possibly can.
It was only when Purdy got frustrated and quit did some of this information, start to come out.
Now I think a lot more has come out about the extent of what 3M knew and when.
3M had to reveal all the studies they covered up for decades that they were supposed to disclose under a federal law.
All the help and information they possibly can.
3M's research was the first to detect that perfluorochemicals were turning up everywhere.
They, again, had been looking at it for decades.
When I look at it, I say, my God, they knew about it 50, 60 years ago.
In 1978, they did a study of rhesus monkeys.
All the monkeys died in the first study, right?
That's correct.
They had to terminate the study after 20 days because the monkeys all died.
One monkey at the lowest study dose that I believe was humanely sacrificed because it was quite ill.
It was dying, so
Yep.
you
Right.
Well, you did what lay people would say, put it to sleep, right?
Right.
That was a fork in the road where 3M could have said, wait a minute, monkeys are dying because they're being exposed to our chemicals.
They chose to not tell the EPA.
They took the fork that would lead them to make more money.
In fact, they chose to ramp up and sell their products that had PFAS chemicals even more.
The misrepresentation of 3M was very calculated.
You know, they did it because this was a blockbuster product for them.
When I drive past 3M, the initial thought is, man, they suck.
And some days, it's the thoughts in my head can't be shared publicly.
And then my second thought is, they have so much money and so much power that they could fix this.
We know three things to be true. 3M made these chemicals, 3M disposed of these chemicals, and now these chemicals are in every single human being's blood alive on the planet today. We have a law in Minnesota that requires companies that pollute the environment to pay for the damage caused by their pollution, and so we filed a lawsuit in 2010.
Attorney General Lori Swanson is suing 3M.
It was knockdown, drag-out litigation.
You can do whatever you want. You're going to tell me, put your finger down. Put your finger down.
Sorry, I need one. You're pointing at me, Mr.
Put your finger down. Don't raise your voice at me.
They, didn't want to produce documents.
When the lawsuit happened, they immediately went to get all records sealed.
We had to fight them, for documents.
Now slowly, all those records have been opened to the public.
We had 27 million pages of documents that were produced, 1,600 court filings, about 200 witness depositions.
It's a yes or no question, sir.
No,
Thank
it's
you.
not. It's not a yes or no question. I beg to differ.
The Fox 9 investigators reviewed hours and hours of never-before-seen video, testimony from 3M executives, scientists, and government workers.
I'm also a scientist, and I also recognize that there are chemicals in our environment, whether we like it or not.
All talking about what we now know as one of the most significant environmental contaminations in Minnesota history.
I don't agree with the word contamination.
Watching them in the depositions, it felt to me like they were trying to be evasive or incomplete.
So let me be clear. Do you wish to change any of the answers you provided?
I'd like to, yes.
And that, again, was hard to watch.
How about PFOS? Is that a problem?
At this point, I don't believe that it is a problem.
Even when they stopped making the products, they continued to subvert the science.
The early work of finding it everywhere was funded by 3M. It was basically shedding a light on the issue. There's allegations that later on there was efforts to dim the lights, if you will.
And it's your testimony that there was no effort to command the science, to shape the science in a way that was favorable to 3M?
I don't remember anything like that.
There was active disinformation and trying to help the industry avoid liability.
Who was Dr. Giese?
He was a consultant for 3M.
Then they funded John Giese at Michigan State.
They paid you a lot of money.
Depends on what you think is a lot.
Well, you think $2 million is a lot?
Not for people like me.
3M bought his soul, his integrity, his science, his everything.
It's not a lot of money to you?
No.
How's that?
I've got a lot of money.
What is your net worth?
Probably 20 million.
I do know that they were paid very, very well.
And how have you accumulated a net worth of 20 million as an academic researcher?
That's none of your business.
There should have been a disclosure of conflict of interest, given that 3M was paying Dr. Giese as an advisor.
I believe that is consistent with today's standards. I think that was not always the standard.
Gotta do the reading glasses. Right, so this is a scientist that was paid by 3M.
I was writing this as a paid consultant.
he sent an internal email in 2008 to 3M, and it says, since we have been set up as academic experts, about half of the papers published in the area in any given year came to me.
These were high caliber, highly credible people.
In timesheets, I always listed these reviews as literature searches, so there was no paper trail to 3M.
I always listed these reviews as literature searches so that there was no paper trail to 3M. That's what Dr. Giese wrote to you, right?
Yes.
So he was holding himself out as a public university professor.
You don't say again that you were a consultant anywhere in the paper, do you?
No.
But was being paid by 3M.
You and 3M were a team, right?
Well, that's what I thought.
That is how they bought highly respected scientists like John Giese.
At one point, this professor sent another email to 3M saying, I would advise you to try to keep bad studies out of the literature because they can be hard to refute before a judge.
He rejected your work?
Yeah, my publication, yeah.
As we've seen throughout history, that smoking is not harmful for us. The ozone hole is not being created. Climate change doesn't exist. All of these efforts to discredit science, none of them were put out to prove that the scientists were wrong or that they had malfeasance. It was to sow doubt.
And then the case settled shortly after.
So under the settlement, 3M had to pay $890 million.
A Fox 9 investigator's review of settlement grant data reveals that there are currently 37 active projects already approved across the East Metro.
So this property was purchased by the city of Woodbury as part of the 3M State of Minnesota settlement agreement.
3M is paying for most of the Woodbury treatment plant, but now the funding for future projects across the East Metro is in question.
The settlement money is going to quickly run out.
There are some concerns about the long-term sustainability of the settlement agreement.
The settlement was focused mainly on pollution and not on health.
The biggest challenge, again, is looking at human health.
It can be difficult for the public to really have confidence that there's been a strong, robust inquiry into human health effects.
So trying to single out what impact PFAS might have had in this entire soup of chemicals that we're putting through our bodies is going to be very, very difficult.
I will die with this cancer. I want to warn you of the realities faced by countless Minnesotans as a direct result of forever chemicals. I am here to advocate for new legislation to protect my community from these toxic chemicals found in the products they bring into their homes.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking to think back on the illness that she had to fight, to endure. In some days, the pain that the cancer was causing was excruciating. She could barely get out of bed, let alone to the Capitol.
My story is not unique. I have seen neighbors and friends who have also been affected by these toxic chemicals, and it's time for action.
Amara had an incredible tenacity. That tenacity actually comes out in the testimonies that she made at the Capitol.
People are subjected to these dangerous chemicals unknowingly.
Honestly, the biggest memory I have is like the night before or even the morning of. I would do her makeup and I would help her pick out her outfits because she wanted to look very professional and very strong.
It's heart-wrenching to have to watch your child die.
People need to realize Amara wasn't the only one. People are still sick here.
And I think if you interview 3M today, you're probably likely to hear the same kind of things we heard in the litigation, which is you know, nothing to see here.
We don't know, or didn't know at the time, that PFAS was the cause. We did not know it was not the cause.
I believed that the compounds were non-toxic. I believed it because I was told that by the vice president of the medical division and by leading toxicologists within the company. So yeah, I completely believed the message.
But there was a period of time, at least in the 90s, where they warned people that it can cause cancer.
It did not prove that PFAS caused the bladder cancer.
It completely defied what they were telling us in our lawsuit, what they were telling the court, what they were telling the public, what they were telling the media.
There are simply no effects at the low levels that are found in people and in wildlife.
The chemicals have since been linked to a host of health risks, including cancer.
We've seen effects on the immune system of children, heart disease, all sorts of things.
Science is slow. You know, it takes a long time.
So trying to single out what impact PFAS might have had in this entire soup of chemicals that we're putting through our bodies is going to be very, very difficult.
I am here to advocate for new legislation to protect my community from these toxic chemicals found in the products they bring.
It is now known as the Amara Strandy law. The 20-year-old died of a rare cancer last month, not long after testifying in front of a House committee about the damage she believed PFAS chemicals did to her body.
Amara made the difference. Amara made the difference.
What Amara said 2 years ago in one of her testimonies was, 3M, you are innovators. Innovate. It is your time to shine. Create the solution.
3M said in a recent statement that the company has been a, quote, leader in addressing PFAS-related matters, pointing to its phase-out of some chemicals in the year 2000 and its plan to stop making all PFAS chemicals by 2025.
Just because they said they're doing that doesn't mean they have to actually do that.
I think that 3M left themselves some loopholes, and it will be interesting to see if they take advantage of those loopholes or if they really, truly stop with the manufacturing process.
For the first time, the federal government announced a national PFAS standard, setting new limits on how much chemicals can legally be allowed in your drinking water.
We have to respond and implement solutions to those standards.
What were to happen, though, if that standard were rolled back?
Great question, because I don't know if you've read Project 2025, but it's the only chemical that has a whole section dedicated to it.
Politics can make science dirty.
My hope is that clean water and the right to clean water is a bipartisan issue.
If they do, my guess is yes, we're going to go back to a state-by-state issue, and it's going to be, again, the Wild West for regulation, and nobody knows what is what.
I had only wanted to do my work and my science. Instead, MPCA management has harassed me, reprimanded me, and threatened to take my livelihood away for trying to do the right thing. They abuse their authority so much that they use the entire weight of state machinery to crush one individual. But this struggle has been very difficult for me and my family and has taken a tremendous toll on me.
This part actually makes me emotional because she took an incredible risk.
I said, I cannot lie. I have been working since 2000 on this chemical. I cannot lie, and I cannot hide the toxicity of this chemical.
Just an incredible risk.
She lost everything.
Did you know what would happen once you gave that interview?
Yes. I knew. I knew.
It's disgraceful that our state's pollution control agency was not doing its job and that they were actively trying to crush a woman who's willing to whistle.
She's very much a hero to the state of Minnesota, even though she was silenced.
Does she get enough credit? No, I think she absolutely doesn't.
No, she did so much.
I feel like she's been a little bit forgotten in this story.
It was really cruel, honestly. Like she had to move out of the state. Like her career was basically destroyed.
They absolutely trashed her career.
I knew that I'm going to be pushed out of my work.
The grounds for that was that she had violated their media policy in talking with us. So it was directly traced to her participation in the story.
I can say clearly that Fardeen is a heroine. She was the only bright spot in the state's response to PFCs.
It led to hearings at the state Senate.
It was more muted than I wished. I was hoping we could do it, but the administration was able to say, that's just some Senate hearings about this one disgruntled employee kind of thing.
It eventually contributed, I believe, to the state's decision to bring the lawsuit against 3M.
After the lawsuit was filed and the documents became public, then they were sued thousands of times.
The company is facing thousands of lawsuits, and so far, that's led to nearly $14 billion in settlements.
They've been sued around the world.
So I think it's very important for the companies that contribute to the problem to be part of the solution and help fund the cleanup.
You know, the fact that didn't happen sooner, we can chalk a lot of that up to 3M. I think it started putting tremendous pressure on regulators to, say, what are we doing here? Why are we allowing this?
And so there were big ripple effects, but Fardeen paid the price.
Her boss went on to have a career with another company.
Koch Industries is a company that cares deeply about the environment.
I think she was dismissive of the need for the research. 20 years later, it just seems so obvious.
If it had not been for Fardeen Oliaee, we would have never known this story.
I feel in some ways that Fardeen was ahead of her time, that the agency, state government, wasn't ready for her.
I don't want to get all the credit. I was one of the people, but I was the only one in Minnesota who opened a can of worms about this issue.
I felt really guilty about the high price that she had paid in order to do the right thing. But she would always say to me, every time she would see me in the years that followed, I would do the same thing again. And that meant a lot to me, that she never regretted participating in our story.
I also feel in some ways that we might have been a little ahead of the game too by doing this reporting in Minnesota in 2005. But now I can look back after 20 years and say, hey, we were right. But you know who really was right was Fardeen.